Hello and welcome to another episode of Exploring Standards. I am your host, Jess, and today I have the absolute pleasure of talking to Henry Fenby-Taylor, founder of Athenophillia. Henry, how are you today?
I'm really good, Jess. Great to be here.
Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. So, Henry, you have quite the resume behind you, which is obviously fantastic. From writing books to work on digital twins, information management, research, obviously all the work you did with the ISO 19650. So, just a very brief snapshot there. But today we're actually going to discuss some of the work you've done with a cyber-physical infrastructure.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So we're going to get straight in with the first question, which is, what is cyber-physical infrastructure?
I'll start with the easy questions, why don't you?
Simple.
Yeah.
Briefly.
Well, so cyber-physical systems have existed for a while. So let's just break down the two terms. Cyber, as in computational, digital. There's a kind of robotic element to that almost, which is the physical. How is that a physical thing? And it really came out of manufacturing. So how do they have integrated physical things that work in like an integrated way through the cyber route? So cyber is basically the digital and physical is the real. So how do we integrate cool digital innovative systems into the real world? And the Robotics Growth Partnership started with the definition and this vision of cyber-physical infrastructure. And effectively, it includes all of the major technologies that are on the forefront these days. So digital twins, of course, and digital shadows. Synthetic environments, which is basically saying metaverse or virtual reality. Semantic maps, so that's effectively saying how data and systems cooperate and interface and interact. Artificial intelligence, which is familiar and on everybody's lips, but it's not just talking to a system. This is also about predictive statistics and real-time monitoring and real-time interaction with the real world, with real infrastructure. And robotics. So that could be robotics in terms of creating infrastructure, but also making physical changes to the real world in real time. So that is cyber-physical infrastructure.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. You've done a review of the cyber-physical infrastructure. So can you briefly explain your review for us, please?
Sure. So the UKRI, through Innovate UK, procured an independent review of their cyber-physical infrastructure development work. So they've been building capability in this area. And this was effectively to look at all the work that has been done so far, all the investment that has been made, and to set a bit of a direction, to set a vision for how that can best impact society in the long term. So that was what they asked us to do. And so that's what we did.
Would you like to go into any more detail?
Sure.
Always. You asked.
Yeah, you asked. Well, I'll tell you. So yeah, I mean, as I said, it started with a cyber-physical infrastructure vision from Robotics Growth Partnership, and the Centre for Digital Built Britain were also involved in that. And there was a consultation for the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy that has now been split up into several other departments. So there was this understanding from government that investment needed to be made, that we needed the next level of investment. So what I was doing, what was actually going on was 6 catapults were funded. The catapult network is the bridge between academia and creating businesses and creating opportunities. So they invested in 6 catapults, and I'm just going to do these off the top of my head. So there was the digital catapult, the energy systems catapult, the connected places catapult, the satellite applications catapult, the offshore renewable energy catapult, and the high value manufacturing catapult. So they were all invested in to build the capability around cyber-physical infrastructure. And they all did a number of things to try and create a real basis that the rest of the economy, the rest of the UK can grow to implement this future operating model of infrastructure in the UK. So they were doing things like, creating communities, like the Digital Twin Hub was involved in that, and the Apollo Protocol, which is about connecting the sectors together. There was also some very interesting work developing digital twins for future innovation centers, which is one of the key ways that the catapults kind of interact with the world. And then ongoing development of digital twins, so things like the Credo, the Climate Resilience Demonstrator, and an energy system digital twin augmented visual demonstrator looking at retrofit for houses to make them more insulated. So there's loads of investment there, and they were working with innovators in small and large companies, and working with utilities, working with governments, working in different regions to create this capability so that we can, as a country, be the leaders in this future development.
Fantastic. So from what you're saying so far, this all seems very, very kind of tech focused. So how are we going to bring this all together?
Yeah, well, the cyber physical infrastructure vision that was built was very technical, and it's been very clearly demonstrated what needs to be built. We're talking about building blocks and creating these interfaces between different technical systems. But one of the things that came out was that we needed a vision. And so that was one of the outputs of the report, was the responsive infrastructure vision. So that vision is effectively that by focusing on 4 stakeholder groups, which are the government and all of its departments, infrastructure owners and operators, those people who have to actually deliver the services that people use on a day-to-day basis, citizens, how they want to and do interact with infrastructure and the world around them, and also innovators, in the sense of not just those people inside infrastructure and government, but also small companies and other people who want to make the world a better place. And by bringing all 4 of those people together and by being responsive to them, we can create something better. So let's start with this idea of it being responsive to citizens. Well, citizens are already using technology a lot. There's also a lot of work to do for those people that can't. But by bringing together these systems, we can create a world that operates as citizens need to, so they can know if their bus is going to be late. Like, actually, really, they can actually plan their journey in real time. Travel is a big one. And this can be particularly important for people who have accessibility needs. So if somebody is partially sighted, then they will be crossing lots of different boundaries of kind of ownership between, say, leaving their house or their accommodation and going to the place where they need support, going to a hospital, for example. So what is that journey, and are the hospital part of that journey? And the answer now, of course, is no, because that's on you. You've just got to get from A to B however you can. It can be very difficult. So if we had a system, if our infrastructure operated in a way that supported people, then that would be really beneficial, and we could really bring people on board. Government have the opportunity to have infrastructure be responsive to them, so that they can show in real time that their policies are working and actually are making an impact. Infrastructure owners and operators often are dealing with very large, complex systems. The water treatment networks, wastewater, all of these things are very complex systems when you dig into them, and they need better data to be able to manage what's happening in real time. So maybe they don't spill sewage into watercourses, but also to be able to plan for the future. So by having an infrastructure system, the whole, like the national infrastructure, better connected with real insights about what's really happening, rather than just having to use statistics to kind of guess what's going to happen, they could run their infrastructure better. And then lastly, for innovators who are in the wings creating amazing solutions that could really make a massive difference. You know, lots of small interventions here and there, as well as really grand ones, so that, you know, maybe there's a better sensor out there, or maybe there's a new app. But how things currently operate is it's very difficult for small companies to be procured to deliver such innovation. So by being responsive to these four key stakeholder groups, we can create responsive infrastructure that is responsive to everybody's needs and can create a better world out the back of it. So that was the sort of cohesive vision that that we brought up as part of this. So it's called responsive infrastructure. It's called the Fenby-Taylor review as well, because why wouldn't you if you had that opportunity? So you know, so by creating something like that, the need for an innovation ecosystem has been established effectively. You know, we need all of our groups together, and we need to be able to support them with good policy, with funding, with opportunities, and all of these sorts of things.
This all sounds fantastic, and it just seems to present so many opportunities, uh,
Mm.
and like amazing. So, how is this being delivered?
So there are two things here, really. The first one is through, you know, Innovate UK and DSIT now, the Department for Science, Innovation and Technology, are both investing in this area. So they were working through the catapults for this capability development work, and they have, you know, created lots of opportunities out of the back of that, which has really driven a lot of certainly government departments, but also private, you know, landowners and private infrastructure owners to start asking for more cyber physical infrastructure delivery. So there is a market emerging here. And what is happening right now is there is a national cyber physical infrastructure ecosystem that has been developed, and that is what is currently happening. And they are looking at the best way to bring all of these people together, to support them, to, you know, enable and unlock this investment. So the responsive infrastructure paper really lines up with that need for, you know, this isn't just one department, this isn't just one person, this is a systemic change. And so by having this kind of top leadership, it's created lots of opportunities in the area. And the next steps are, you know, how do we galvanize that into a, you know, a major program? And then the world is our oyster, and we can really start getting going on this in a really kind of organized, constructive way.
Wonderful. So, how long do you think it will be before everyone in the industry gets on board with it? Then, obviously, it's such a big project, but what are we thinking?
Well, so impossible to answer. First of all,
I like
everybody,
giving you those questions.
yeah, pick a year, any year. So let's talk about what's happening right now. So the Department
Yep.
for Transport are looking at their data, and through the Transport Research Innovation Grant, TRIG as it's known, they are making a series of investments in data and in, you know, AI and new opportunities, and doing a little bit of seed funding. So there are these opportunities that exist on, you can find them if you just Google, you know, Innovate UK and, you know, apply for funding. There are those opportunities there, and it is that sort of thing. This is not a like ISO 19650, which revolutionized how information is managed on construction projects. This is about, where are the opportunities for digitization? Where are the opportunities for creating cyber physical systems in infrastructure? So I have seen small companies diversify. I've met a small manufacturing company that manufactures things for the built environment for construction, and they've created an AI system that looks at health and safety and the Building Regulations Act. So a lot of this technology is actually relatively easy to invest in,
Hmm.
because this isn't like developing tech in the 80s or the 70s or the 60s, where you had to create stuff from scratch. You know, I'm going to create an AI. Right. Okay. How do I create an AI? We don't have to do any of that anymore. A lot of these
Yeah.
foundational elements are in place. So this is an opportunity for people to diversify, really. There is a lot of opportunities. I'm seeing digital twins coming out in, people who own commercial buildings are investing in it. People who are developing houses are investing in them. So the bar to entry is actually quite low. If you can find a good partner to work with, if you can find a problem that really needs solving, there's the Bridge AI investment by the UK. A lot of money was invested, something like 925 million pounds in AI. There is a lot of money out there to create new ways of doing things. So it's about finding those opportunities and getting on board with them. So I believe, and this is just my belief, I believe that by making all of these investments, things will just start happening, in the sense of the construction site will change, design is changing, construction is changing, asset management, operational facilities management is changing, and it's changing in lots of small ways. How that will change so that's kind of what's happening now. And then in the medium to long term, all of these systems need to talk to each other, and we need to make sure that that is appropriate, so it's private, so that we're not giving away national secrets and we're not sharing people's personal information, so that it's done in a trusted way, but that will create a world in which what is procured for design, for construction, for the operations of assets will be very transparent, and there'll be a lot of accountability, but there will be a lot of support as well. So it will be uncomfortable for some companies, because they will be held to account, and there will be very clear evidence of exactly what's been done and what hasn't been done. But with that is coming a change of culture of, we don't need to point the finger at people and blame, because if we can actually get ahead of problems, and if we're designing a new road and it's actually not what the requirement is, we can change earlier. We can change far earlier in the process, rather than when it's being built, so that we can get ahead of these problems. Because if that road is serving a community that is actually transient and is moving away, that this happens across the world, but across the country as well, then those requirements change. So that road design will change. If the connected network that road connects into is also changing, there isn't really a mechanism. There are people who have to, be really heroic and go and find all of these interfaces. But if the wider network of roads is changing, there isn't really a way systematically to know whether or not if you're making a little trunk road, or you're making a new slip road or something like that, there isn't really a way to know how that's going to fit into the whole picture. But that will all change. There will be much more information in the hands of government, in the hands of infrastructure owners and operators, so they will be able to make better decisions. So hopefully it will be less frustrating for everybody involved in the medium to long term.
Wow, this seems huge, and very, very exciting. Is there any government guidelines, though? Obviously, this is a big one. Is there anything currently in place?
Well, I mean, there is that cyber physical infrastructure vision. There is the kind of findings of the public consultation. This is not really the time for standardizing, in the sense of, yes, we need to make systems connect and interact. The National Digital Twin is doing a lot of work on that. But those rules of the road are being written as we speak. So the guidelines in terms of how should these things actually interface isn't there yet. But this isn't going to be as simple as complying with a standard. This is going to be understanding the work that's involved. So great example I often use is, you can tell the difference between a company that understands digital and one that doesn't if they develop an app. And if you find that app on the App Store and it has 2 stars or below, they made a capital investment. The app was put out there as a project, but then that was it. And as the software updates, the security updates come through, it stops working effectively. And then there are those companies that are actively investing in it, and they see the value for the long term. And that can be all sorts of value. It could be financial, but it could be social as well as sustainability and environmental. So what this is really about is changing the whole way infrastructure operates from a very project-focused mindset of going to get some money, I'm going to deliver you a road. Here's your road. Thanks. We're done. To a much more products and services mindset. It's all started. A great one that's often used is Rolls-Royce change their model from delivering. We have got a project to deliver an engine. We'll deliver an engine to here is our engine as a service. You can use our engine. We will monitor it. We will retain ownership of it. And that actually works out better for everybody because we will make sure it is maintained for you, and you only pay for what you use. So it's a completely different approach to how things are going to be delivered. So yeah, it's big. It is big.
Exciting times, such exciting times. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I do have one final question, and I think it's going to really relate with our clients. Is what can small and medium businesses in construction do to prepare for the future and to be competitive?
Well, there are a lot of grant awarding bodies who are investing. There are a lot of venture capitalists are taking an interest in our sector in a way that hasn't really happened before, and there's unprecedented investment. So, find a trusted advisor to talk to if you have an idea. I have found that lots of small and medium businesses have an amazing understanding of how the sector works. They know where the problems are. They know where the solutions should be and what they should look like. And that can be funded. And it might not work. You might come up with an idea that doesn't work. But that's the point of venture capital, is to invest. That's the point of innovation and R&D. You invest and you try. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But with grant money and with investment, you have a bit of a safety net. So finding those ideas, finding people who you can support, like Ascent, like myself, who can support you in that process, you can try, and you can be less susceptible to the winds of outrageous fortune that comes with the construction sector, which is deeply linked to how well the international economy is doing. And that is a really tough gig. If you're just selling time, it's difficult. It is difficult. And so this is an opportunity for companies to diversify and try new things. So find those problems, find somebody to talk to about them, see if you can get some investment, try it out. It might completely change your business, and it might not, but then you actually won't have lost anything.
You've done something and you've tried, and you won't know till you tried. And this is how things evolve. Exactly. So thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you have enjoyed it, please make sure you rate, review, and subscribe. It really, really helps the podcast. Thank you, Henry, for joining me today. It has been an absolute pleasure. I will make sure to pop a link to Henry's review so you can give it a read, and any important links that we feel that are necessary will be popped into the show description. So please do check them out. And I will be back with another episode in a couple of weeks.
Excellent. Thanks for having me, Jess.
Thank you.